The intellectual dishonesty has never been higher in the world.
Yeah.
This should be an alarm bell going off.
And if Elon didn't decide, we had this one idiosyncratic billionaire who believes in free speech. If he didn't decide to take this on, we would never have known this stuff. The lies of the powerful group of people who were running Twitter policy and suppressing one side of the debate has been exposed, and the media is treating it with a yawn, like there's nothing to see here. Why? Because they were complicit in this. I don't know why you're bringing up this Trump stuff. It has nothing to do with the real issue here. Hold on a second. The real issue is this. Does social media have the right to suppress true stories put out by our media before the month before an election? Yes or no?
In this video, things get super heated as the All-In Besties discuss, debate, and clash over Elon Musk's release of the Twitter files Part 1 and 2. Once again, this is an extraordinarily important video. First, some very important context. Great poll here from Dave Lee. Curious to hear people's opinion. Is Elon Musk getting political? 1, a mistake, or 2, necessary for the future of civilization? About a third of respondents so far suggesting it's a mistake, 21% confused and don't know what to think, 46.9% percent of people saying it's necessary. It is necessary. I'm going to go out on a limb here. The 32.1% of people here who have voted that this is a mistake, I personally believe can't see the flames around them. They are unaware that civilization is currently on fire. These people may mean well, but they are naive at best. It appears to me that nearly half the respondents to this poll actually have their eyes open, which gives me a lot of hope. And 21% of people aren't exactly sure what's going on. They can smell a little bit of smoke, but they don't really know if there's a fire, and they're a little bit, no, I'm not really, whatever. This is progress. Only 1/3 of people I would consider at this point in time dangerously naive to the way the world is. If you're not paying close attention, you can be completely oblivious to what's going on in the world right now. But the last 2 to 3 years should have opened many people's eyes. There was an interesting discussion in this thread. I responded publicly because I want to make sure people understand I'm not hiding behind an anonymous vote here. I don't mind people hearing my opinion and getting mad, triggered, and butthurt. That's fine with me, you've probably noticed. Interesting question here. Can someone more intelligent than me please explain what Elon is trying to achieve with all this political BS? This is a great question, by the way. If you're unsure what's going on here, rather than jumping to conclusions, ask some questions. Now, before I read my response, I do want to discuss this in just a little bit more detail. If anyone, especially somebody as logical, reasonable, and rational as Elon, I mean, the autist of all autists, first principles as if somebody so logical is doing something to you, doesn't seem to make sense. Why would he do this? Why would he piss off people, investors, get a tax from this, that, and the other? Why doesn't he just take, what's he doing? As this question is brilliantly asked, please explain what Elon is trying to achieve with all this political BS. If you see Elon take an action and you think to yourself, where's the upside to Elon here? It's going to divide people, he's going to get attacked, it's going to cause sensitive Tesla investors to get butthurt. Why would Elon do this? The answer to the question always, 100% of the time, is because it's so important he has no choice. Really. Next time you see Elon do or say something that you know is going to cause a shitstorm, realize that Elon also knows it's going to cause a shitstorm, but it's necessary. Now, let's read my response. Civilization is on fire. Most people are oblivious to the raging inferno, yourself included, responding to the person asking the question, why is Elon doing this? And again, there's no judgment here, I'm just explaining. There are some people who just don't understand what's going on. They're oblivious to the way the world is, and more importantly, to the fact there's a fucking raging inferno, which is exactly why Musk is stepping in, because of the few people who see the inferno, he is one of the only people able to make an impact and willing to suffer burns extinguishing the fire. This is very important for people to understand. I can relate on a much smaller scale. Every time I even discuss this stuff, I end up with third-degree burns too, professionally speaking. People rage quitting their channel, unsubscribe, fuck you man, constantly. Every time. I know exactly what's going to happen when I post this video. I know what's coming, but it's too important not to. So I can relate to Elon in this point. Now, a lot of people are going to ask exactly what's the problem? What do you mean civilization's on fire? I don't understand. Where to fucking start? The mainstream media throughout planet Earth is almost entirely a propaganda machine. You think you're getting the news. You're not. You're getting a narrative. You think they're unbiased. They're not. You don't think there's any corruption or collusion. There is. You don't think big tech companies almost unilaterally censoring opinions on one side of the political aisle is a problem. Or maybe you don't think it's actually happening. The reason Elon is stepping in here is because he can see the inferno where few others can. He's like, well, these motherfuckers don't even realize there's a fire. Someone's going to put it out. Who else can put it out? There's not many of us. Who's willing to put it out? Well, you guys, I'm going to do it myself. This is going to hurt, but it needs to be done. The woke mind virus has spread everywhere. Academia, gone, rest in fucking peace. Hollywood, gone, rest in peace. The mainstream media, gone, rest in peace. Politics, gone, rest in peace. And most well-meaning ordinary citizens who want to be perceived as good and desperately require the approval of other people are just going along for the ride, failing to think for themselves along the way. I'm a good person. What do we care about? Who's oppressed? Okay, yeah, let's support that cause as well. The end. The problem here is that thinking hurts. It's much easier not to think. Most people don't think, and most people don't think, therefore they don't see. And if they don't see, they don't know. And if they don't know, well, okay, rest in peace. You're going to be a pile of ashes soon unless somebody steps steps in and saves you. And before we get into the clips from the All In podcast, and boy oh boy, the things really get heated, posted a super juicy taste of things to come on Patreon today. This will be the shitstorm of all shitstorms. Seriously. You thought this was insane? Thought the blowback from Elon Musk releasing this information about the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story, deplatforming of Orange Man bad? Just you wait until a future Twitter files drop. For some strange reason, 2 words just came to mind. Prosecute Fauci. So if you thought this was too hot to handle, just wait until the next lot of Twitter files drop. Boy, oh fucking boy. If you want more content, a lot more content, including a lot that is way too spicy for YouTube, you can join Patreon with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment.
All right, here we go. Twitter files have dropped. Part 1 dropped with the legendary, award-winning, highly respected journalist, Matt Taibbi. If you don't know who he is a left-leaning journalist who worked at Rolling Stone and did the best coverage, hands down, of the financial crisis and the shenanigans, and he held truth to power to that group. This is important to note.
Very important to note. This is a left-leaning journalist.
The second drop was given to Bari Weiss, who is a right-leaning independent journalist. These are both independent journalists. She previously worked at the New York Times itself. Now, I think we should work backwards from 2 to 1. Do you agree?
Yes, for sure. Let's start with the drop that just happened last night.
Yes. So last night a drop happened. So here's what happens in Twitter Files Part 2. I'm going to give a basic summary and then I'm going to give it to Sachs because he's chomping at the bit. We now have confirmation that what the right thought was happening all along, which is a secret silencing system built into the software of blacklists, was tagging right-wing conservative voices in the system. And these included people like Dan Bongino, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
He was tagged with being on a search blacklist. What that means is you're a fan of Dan's, who is a former Secret Service agent who is now a right-wing conservative, let's just say conservative instead of wing, a conservative radio host, podcast host. He was not allowed to be found in search engines for some reason. Charlie Kirk, who is a conservative commentator, he was tagged with do not amplify. I guess that means you can't trend into people's feeds, even if they follow you. And then there were people who were banned from the Trends blacklist, including a Stanford professor, Bhattacharya. Did I get it right?
Yes, Jay Bhattacharya.
Okay, I got it right.
Doctor at Stanford School of Medicine.
And he was not allowed on the Trends blacklist because he had a dissenting opinion. A Stanford professor had a dissenting opinion
on COVID that's turned out to be true.
The suppression of these 3 particular accounts is nothing short of heinous, bordering on criminal. No hyperbole. How dare this company take it upon themselves to stifle the public conversation? And once again, it's not about any of the individual accounts. It's not about their political persuasion. It's not about what they said. It's about the fact they weren't allowed to reach people having said what they said. Imagine blocking somebody from the search. You can't even search for an account. Imagine banning somebody because they raised valid, reasonable concerns. And doing all of this meddling without any knowledge of the public, without any transparency, without anyone knowing what was happening behind the scenes. It's despicable and inexcusable.
And this is where the danger comes in, because all of these actions were taken without any transparency. They were taken on one side of the aisle by people inside of Twitter, essentially covertly. No ownership of who did it, and they never told the people. They gaslit them. They could see their own tweets. They could use the service, but they couldn't be seen, even by their own fans in many cases here. Sachs, when you look at that, let's just start with that first piece, the shadow banning, as it's called in our industry, where you can participate in a community, but you can't be seen. Is there any circumstance under which this tool would make sense for you to deploy? And then what's your general take on what has been discovered last night?
Okay, look.
Two-part question.
Yes. Let me start with what's been discovered here. Let me boil it down for you. This is an FTX level fraud, except that what was stolen here was not customer funds. It was their free speech rights. Not just the rights of people like Jay Bhattacharya and Dan Bongino to speak, but the right of the public to hear them in the way that they expected. Okay?
Absolutely nailed it. This isn't about the individuals in question. That's also an issue. This is about the general public. Twitter covertly stole the ability for people in the general public to even participate in, engage in, and hear the conversation. Twitter just unilaterally deletes one side of the conversation, and the public doesn't even know this has happened. This is not cool.
And you had statement after statement by Twitter executives like Jack Dorsey, like Vijaya Gotti, like, Yoel and others saying we do not shadow ban. And then they also said we certainly, this is their emphasis, do not shadow ban on the basis of political viewpoint. And what the Twitter files show is that is exactly what they were doing. They, in the same way that SBF was using FTX and customer funds as his personal piggy bank, they were using Twitter as their personal ideological piggy bank. They were going in to the tools and using the content moderation system, these big brother-like tools that were designed to basically put their thumb on the scale of American democracy and suppress viewpoints that they did not agree with and they did not like, even when they could not justify removing content based on their own rules. So there are conversations in the Slack that Barry Weiss exposed, where, for example, libs of TikTok, they admit in the Slack that we can't suppress libs of TikTok based on our hate policy. Libs of TikTok hasn't violated it. We're going to suppress that account anyway.
Now, once again, very important point. We saw Twitter exposed private discussions admitting this account does not violate our policies, yet we're going to ban it anyway. They're literally explaining behind the scenes in private, not anymore, dickheads. After all, when Elon acquired Twitter, he purchased both potential and a crime scene. There are internal discussions. In essence, hey guys, this account doesn't actually violate any of our policies, but we're going to ban it anyway and claim it violates these policies, even though we literally are admitting out loud that it doesn't violate these policies. Again, not cool.
Now, it's important to note what Libs of TikTok does. This is a great talking point. Libs of TikTok finds people who are trans, people who are, maybe not LGBTQ, and they feature their TikToks and they mock them on Twitter.
Categorically false. I'm stunned that Jason didn't do any homework on this before spouting off on this topic. I mean, it's an important podcast. Let's look at some of the tweets from Libs of TikTok. Now, these aren't a perfect representation of every single tweet ever made, but Jason's description there, that this account is featuring content from trans, gay, etc., mocking and ridiculing, false. The account name itself spells things out pretty clearly. Libs as in liberals, as in left-leaning. The account features dumb shit said by people with insane left-leaning ideologies. As I said in yesterday's video, there could also be a conservatives of TikTok, would be the exact same thing with people with right-leaning political biases saying dumb shit as well. This isn't about gay, lesbian, trans. It's nothing to do with this. This is absolutely false. I don't know why Jason would say this. Let's start with this one.
Good morning, TikTok, and happy Friday. Yo, I've been looking at these comments on my post from yesterday about Brittany Griner. And I am so tired of these saltine motherfucking settlers coming on my post with their bullshit rhetoric. Not for racism.
Hold up a minute. Saltine cracker, I'm guessing she's referring to, the saltine or soda cracker? Hang on a minute, cracker rings a bell. You guys will have to forgive me, I wasn't quite sure, but I just had to do some homework. I don't know. Is it just me? Let me just check here. Saltine cracker, term. Cracker, sometimes white cracker or cracker, is a racial epithet directed toward white people, used especially with regard to poor rural whites in the blah, blah, blah. Okay. I mean, maybe she meant something different, but if I'm not mistaken, just based on a very quick Google, which is never smart, but hey, we've got to keep moving here. It sounds like this may be a racial slur being used toward white people commenting on her tweet. What's this got to do with gay and lesbian? Just asking the question, Jason.
Okay, if you got left behind, and black people in this country have gotten the short end of the stick for long enough. When are y'all saltines gonna realize that we like motherfucking graham crackers over here? Fucking stupid.
Head over to another tweet. This is San Francisco, but they're more worried about Twitter employees taking naps on sofas at work. So again, I'm not noticing anything to do with gay, lesbian, trans. Let's watch another one. Ohio plastic surgeon just had her medical license suspended after allegations of botched surgeries and privacy concerns. She's a TikTok star with nearly 1 million followers and live streams surgeries while... What the f***? Is this real life? Live stream surgeries while answering questions? If your doctor is a TikTok star, you should probably find a new one. This can't be real life. It's surely not. Is this real life right now? Is she performing liposuction and live streaming it? Are you f***ing serious? Is this real life? This has to be a stitch up. I don't even believe this. You've got to be f***ing kidding me. And again, the question, Jason, gay and lesbian, where? Transware. Another one. Teacher says we should have lower expectations for black students because they're suffering trauma and PTSD from systemic racism.
So we now know that trauma just makes it almost infinitely harder to learn when you're a child. And we also now know that,
by the way, that's definitely true.
Systemic racism is essentially an adverse childhood experience. And many researchers...
Now, sorry, but struggling to make the connection between systemic racism and legitimate trauma, but okay.
Qualify systemic racism as an adverse childhood experience, which means that children who are black and brown in our schools are expected to be excellent while suffering from complex PTSD.
I can't even. But again, Jason, gay and lesbian, trans, where? What? Cis men are terrorists and a threat to our country. Maybe this is about gay, lesbian, and trans. Could be.
I'm going to say some stuff that's going to ruffle some feathers. It may even evoke anger out of some of you, but if it does evoke anger, it's because it's the truth. So sit the fuck down and put the shoe on, Cinderella, because here we go. If you look at the culprits from most of the school shootings, most of the church shootings, most of the attacks against the LGBT and minority groups, who is it? It's white cis men.
Oh, no, it's a mental health crisis. We need to acknowledge it.
No, we're not going to use mental health illnesses as the reasoning on why this is happening. I have mental health issues and I'm white. I'm not going out there doing this shit.
Instead of shooting up a school, I'm creating an intentionally provocative video online. Why am I not surprised?
It's white cis men who are a part of the far right-winged ideology of fascism. That is a true threat and the terrorism to this country. And if you don't fucking think so, you're a fucking dingbat. Oh, and P.S., a drag queen reading to your child isn't going to do anything to them, but you showing up in militia gear wanting to play Call of Duty is going to traumatize them for the rest of their life. I'm going to say...
I don't want to assume here, so I'm not sure if this has anything to do with gay and lesbian either, or just guy with mental health issues, explaining that other guys with mental health issues who shoot up schools don't have mental health issues. One more. Welcome to Los Angeles.
Oh, don't take my truck. Oh, don't take it.
So I think it's safe to say that Jason has been fact-checked and his statement about the Libs of TikTok account was false. Let's proceed.
Now, this certainly is free speech. And the argument from the safety team was, by putting all of these together, you're inciting violence towards those people. And they said they haven't broken a rule, but collectively, they could be, in some way, targeting those people. Is there anything fair, Friedberg, to that statement?
That they targeted them?
By collecting their, let's say, views that are, I'm asking this question for discussion purposes. I'm not giving my opinion.
Cal.
Hold on. I want Friedberg
Why
to answer
can't I
one.
finish?
I'm going to go back to you. You spoke for 2 minutes. That's why. Friedberg.
You turned down moderating today, Sachs. You could have had the
Everybody else
opportunity
gets
to
to speak
decide
as
who
long as
speaks.
they want, and I get interrupted.
You got 2 minutes.
Let me just finish the SBF. Let me just finish the SBF analogy, okay?
God
And then you
almighty.
can
The filibuster continues. Go ahead.
Then you can both sides this issue.
Don't worry, Sachs. While you're speaking, he'll
Listen.
drop one or two words on you, and then, yeah, go ahead.
Why did people like Gotti and Yoel deny that they were engaged in shadow banning, even though that's clearly what they were doing?
What a great question, David Sachs. Why did they publicly deny doing what privately they were doing and talking about doing and admitting to doing, and now we have evidence that they were doing, so this is not up for debate. They were doing what they said publicly they were not doing. Why is it that they were doing privately what they said publicly they were not doing? I wonder why. David Sachs might have a few insights.
Because they knew that they had an obligation to be stewards of the public trust. They were custodians of public trust. They knew they were violating that trust. The same way that SBF had a duty to be custodians of his customers' funds. They did not implement their own policy that they said they were implementing. Why? Because they were suppressing accounts that personally offended them, that personally they disagreed with, and they wanted to deprive the public of the right to hear.
Okay, so
now,
then
the way that they're justifying this, hold on, the way that the media is today justifying it is they're pointing to obscure provisions in the terms of use around spam accounts, things like that, saying, oh, well, the terms of use showed that they had the right to do this. This is like the margin account, okay? They did not have the right to use these tools in this way, okay? Jay Bhattacharya was not posting spam.
A Stanford professor. A Stanford professor doesn't. Yes, and a talk show radio host you disagree with.
His view on COVID has been proven correct completely. He was opposed to lockdowns. That was the great Barrington Declaration, and they suppressed it. What is the justification for that?
So now you have to answer my question then, Sachs, since you want to talk so much. Hold on. Sachs, I want you to answer the question then, since you are so interested in talking.
Hold on.
I want him to answer one question. Then it's going to you, Freeberg. Sachs, should libs of TikTok be able to collect trans people living their life, making TikToks?
Jason, holy shit, dude. Same false talking points. Now, I'm sure there are some trans people who feature on the Libs of TikTok's account. But Jason seems to be under the impression that's all they do. And these are recent tweets. I just went through a bunch of recent tweets. We just looked at them. Anyway, we can proceed. But before we do, spoiler alert, if you post something on TikTok, on Instagram, anywhere on the internet, it is in the public domain. People can, will, and have the right to discuss what you've said in the public domain. That's how it works. There are people today watching this video, masturbating furiously, excited for the next video to explain why I'm wrong about everything and I'm a fraud. They have that right. If you put something into the public domain and it garners a lot of attention, that's on you. You put it into the public domain. This is just a fact of reality. If you can't handle the attention, don't seek it. Don't put stuff out into the interwebs, into the public domain.
Put them into a group feed, mock them. If those people experience harassment because of it, is that something that Twitter should allow? I'm asking you this without giving my opinion. I'm curious your opinion, specifically for the libs of TikTok, since you opened that door and you wanted to bring up that very thorny issue. Go.
Listen, so on Libs of TikTok, my understanding of that account is that they only take videos that have already been made public by another account. Yes. They're all public. So they're all in the public domain, and then they repost them. Sometimes they make a snarky comment, but usually they just let them stand on their own. That is not a violation of free speech. Now, the way that I think these Twitter executives have interpreted it is that they live in such a bubble, and they live with such privilege and entitlement that they think that when their point of view gets criticized or challenged, that in and of itself is harassment. That's not. That is public debate.
God damn it. I love this guy. David Sachs spitting nothing but facts. This is brilliant. What an insight. This is the mindset of many entitled victims infected by the woke mind virus. If you criticize my opinion, it's hate speech. If you criticize my opinion, you're a racist, a sexist, a bigot, a homophobe, a transphobe, an ist, all the isms and ists and everythings. That's how it works. If you talk about my ideas, it means you're oppressing me, you hate me, you want me to die, and so on. This is literal brain damage, manifest. And it happens everywhere. People who haven't matured emotionally beyond the levels expected in a typical infant human being are the kind of people who react this way. I just love how eloquently Sachs has put this. If someone criticizes an idea of yours, they're not harassing you, they're criticizing the idea.
And they want to make themselves and their points of view immune to public debate. And the way that they do that is that they claim that any criticism is harassment. It's not.
Bingo.
If in aggregate, final follow-up, if in aggregate those people report being harassed and they have evidence of being harassed, what should Twitter do?
Listen, if somebody is harassed, I'm fine with taking that down. But being publicly criticized or simply retweeted is not harassment. Okay? Harassment needs to be targeted, and it needs to be more than just public criticism or even a snarky comment here or there.
And so you don't consider a daily feed of trans people being mocked, you don't consider that target harassment? Got it.
I swear, Jason has lost his mind again with the trans thing. What is he talking about?
Don't listen to me about it. Listen to Twitter's own Slack files about it. Yeah. They knew that the account that Libs of TikTok was not violating the rules, yet they suppressed it. They suspended it 6 times. They knew they were on shaky ground. They wanted to do it anyway. Yeah. Why?
Because people were experiencing harassment. That's why they did it. But it is a thorny freedom of speech issue. I agree with you.
I think, go ahead, Freeberg. I think Sachs has articulated a vision for the product he wanted Twitter to be, but I don't think that's necessarily the product that they wanted to create. It's not that Twitter set out at the time or stated clearly that they were going to be the harbinger of truth and the free speech platform for all.
What the hell's going on? 2 fact checks on 2 besties in the span of a few minutes. Friedberg, dude, are you high? Let me quote Twitter's original mission statement: to give everyone, the power to create and share ideas and information instantly, wait for it, without barriers. I don't want to be too hard on Friedberg here, but the dude has literally said the opposite of reality right now. It's not that Twitter said at the time or set out clearly, and literally did say at the time and set out clearly. I just quoted their mission statement. Their previous mission statement. The new one, of course, was to censor anyone whose opinion we don't like.
I think they were really clear, and they have been in their behavior, and as demonstrated through this stuff that came out, which to me feels a lot like a we already knew all this stuff. This is a bit of a nothing burger, that they were curating and they were editing and they were editorializing other people's content and the ranking of content in the same way that many other internet platforms do to create what they believe to be their best user experience for the users that they want to appeal to. And I'll say, like, there's been this long debate, and it goes back 20 years at this point, on how Google does ranking, right? I mean, you guys may remember Jeremy Stoppelman went to DC and he complained about how Google was using his content and he wasn't being ranked high enough as Google's own content that was being shoved in the wrong place. And there's a guy who ran he was the spokesperson for the SEO, the search engine optimization rules at Google. And it was always the secret at Google. How do the search results get ranked? And I can tell you it's not just a pure algorithm, that there was a lot of manual intervention, a lot of manual work. In fact, the manual work gets to be to the point that they said there's so much stuff that we know is the best content and the best form of content for the user experience, that they ranked it all the way at the top and they called it the one box. It's the stuff that sits above the primary search results. And that editorialization ultimately led to a product that they intended to make because they believed it was a better user experience for the users that they wanted to service. And I don't think that this is any different than what's happened at Twitter. Twitter is not a government agency. They're not a free speech. They're not the internet. They're a product. And the product managers and the people that run that product team ultimately made some editorial decisions that said, this is the content we do want to show and this is the content we don't want to show. And they certainly did wrap up, a bunch of rules that had a lot of leeway for what they could or couldn't do, or they gave themselves a lot of different excuses on how to do it. I don't agree with it. It's not the product I want. It's not the product I think should exist. I think Elon also saw that, and clearly he stepped in and said, I want to make a product that is a different product than what is being created today. So none of this feels to me like these guys were the guardians of the internet and they came along and they were distrustful. They did exactly what what a lot of other companies have done and exactly what they set out to do. And they editorialized a product for a certain user group. And by the way, they never edited people's tweets.
Again, this is entirely false. They literally did set out to allow people to freely share their thoughts, opinions, and ideas without barriers. I mean, you can't get more clear than this.
They changed how people's results were showing up in rankings. They showed how viral they would get in the trend box. Those were in-app features and in-app services. This was not about taking someone's tweet and changing it. And people may feel shamed and they may feel, upset about the fact that they were deranked or they were kind of, quote, shadow banned. But ultimately, that's the product they chose to make. And people have the choice and the option of going elsewhere. And I don't agree with it. And it's not the product I want. And it's not a product I want to use. And I certainly don't feel happy seeing it. But
so you want to see products you want Freeberg to summarize it. You want to see the free market do its job. Chamath, you worked at Facebook. Facebook seems to have done, I would say, an excellent job with content moderation. I think in large part, correct me if I'm wrong, because of the real names policy. But you tell us what you think, when you look at this and the 15-year history of social media and moderation.
I think moderation is incredibly difficult. And typically what happens is early on in a company's life cycle, and I'm going to guess that Twitter and YouTube were very similar to what we did at Facebook. And it's very similar to probably what TikTok had to do in the early days, which is you have this massive tidal wave of usage. And so you're always on a little bit of a hamster wheel. And so you build these very basic tools and you uncover problems along the way. And so I think it's important to humanize the people that are at Twitter, because I'm not sure that they're these super nefarious actors per se.
I agree with Chamath on this point. I personally believe that the majority of people working within Twitter were dangerously stupid morons, not intentionally nefarious actors. Differing intentions, same end result.
I do think that they were conflicted. I do think that they made some very corrupting decisions, but I don't think that they were these evil actors, okay? I think that they were folks who, against the tidal wave of usage, built some brittle tools, built on top of them, built on top of it some more, and tried to find a way of coping. And as scale increased, they didn't have an opportunity to take a step back and reset. And I think that that's true for all of these companies. And so you're just seeing it out in the light, what's happening at Twitter. But don't for a second think that any other company behaved any differently. Google, Facebook, Twitter, ByteDance, and TikTok, they're all the same. They're all dealing with this problem, and they're all probably trying to do a decent job of it as best as they know how. So what do we do from here is the question, okay? The reason somebody needs to do something about this is summarized really elegantly in this Jay Bhattacharya tweet. So please, Nick, just throw it up here so that we can just talk about this. This is why I think that this issue is important.
This is a perfect tweet.
Still trying to process my emotions on learning that Twitter blacklisted me. Okay, who cares about that? Here's what matters. The thought that will keep me up tonight. Censorship of scientific discussion, permitted policies like school closures, and a generation of children were hurt. Now, just think about that in a nutshell. What was Jay Bhattacharya to do? Maybe he was supposed to go on TikTok and try to sound the alarm bells through a TikTok. Maybe he was supposed to go on YouTube and create a video. Maybe he was supposed to go on Facebook and, post into a Facebook group or do a newsfeed post. The problem is that, and the odds are reasonably likely that a lot of these companies had very similar policies. In this example, around COVID misinformation, because it was the CDC and, governmental organizations directing, information
the
and rules reaching out to all of these companies, right? So we're just seeing an insight into Twitter, but the point is it happened everywhere.
More facts from Chamath here. The insights into what happened at Twitter, and boy oh boy, I can't wait for the pandemic files, part 1, 2, 12, and 69. It's going to be juicy AF. The narrow window of insight into what Twitter did is a proxy for what all the other big tech companies did, in collusion with the US government, in collusion with big pharmaceutical companies. I mean, it's for your protection, not our quarterly profits. I too raised my own personal concerns about the deleterious effects, the net negative effect of the lockdowns. I shared my reasoning quite clearly here on YouTube and Patreon and immediately had tons of people rage quit the channel. Because I'm a bad person, I want everyone to die, especially my grandmother. The thing that pains me so much about this tweet and the entire saga is the very fact that this guy here is tweeting, trying to help and protect children who are going to suffer from these insane lockdowns, and his opinion is immediately deleted from the internet. And because this side of the debate disappears from the internet, and people who don't like to think for themselves but rather just be told what to think and do, they said it's okay, you've got my best interest at heart, I believe you. Next minute, enormous amounts of harm inflicted upon children, innocent children who can't defend themselves, can't speak for themselves, and can't think for themselves. Guy tries to do good, tries to speak for, help, protect children who can't speak for, help, and protect themselves, and is punished for it. Think about the amount of harm that was caused by these decisions to censor people, trying to raise concerns and alarms about suffering that will be brought upon others who can't defend or protect themselves. This is why this is such a massive fucking deal.
The implication of suppressing information like this is that a credible individual like that can't spark a public debate. And in not being able to spark the debate, you have this building up of errors in the system. And then who gets hurt in this example, which is true, is like you couldn't even talk about school closures and masking up front and early in the system. If you had scientists actually debate it, maybe what would have happened is we would have kept the schools open and you would have had less learning loss and you'd have less depression and less overprescription of, Ritalin and Adderall, because those are all factual things we can measure today. So I think the important thing to take away from all of this is we've got confirmatory evidence. Whether they're, these folks under a tidal wave of pressure made some really bad decisions. And the implications are pretty broad reaching. And now I do think governments have to step in and create better guardrails so this kind of stuff doesn't happen. I don't buy the whole, it's a, private company, they can do what they want. I think that is too naive of an expectation for how important these three companies literally are to how Americans consume and process information to make decisions.
Incredibly well said. Sachs, your reaction to your besties.
I largely agree with what Chamath said, but let's go back to what Freeberg said. I think what Freeberg's point of view is really what you're hearing now from the mainstream media today, which is, nothing to see here. That they told us all along what was happening. This was just content moderation. They had the right to do this. You're making a big deal over nothing. No, that's not true. Go back and look at the media coverage starting in 2018. Article after article said that this idea of shadow banning was a right-wing conspiracy theory. That's what they said. Furthermore, Jack Dorsey denied that shadow banning was happening, including at a congressional hearing, I believe under oath. So either he lied or he was lied to by his subordinates. I actually believe that the latter is possible. I don't think it's true with SBF. It might be true with Jack because he was so checked out. Furthermore, you had people again like Vijaya Gotti, again, tweeting and repeatedly stating, we do not shadow ban and we certainly don't shadow ban on the basis of political viewpoint. So
this, ladies and gentlemen, is the literal definition of gaslighting. And remember, war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. P.S. It's for your protection. Also, Elon Musk is a dangerous threat to free speech.
These people were denying exactly what their critics were saying. They were accusing their critics of being conspiracy theorists. Now that the thing is proven, the mountain of evidence has dropped. They're saying, oh, well, this is old news. This was known a long time ago. No, it was not known a long time ago. It was disputed by you. And now finally it's proven. And you're trying to say it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It's a violation of the public trust. And if you were so proud of your content moderation policies, why didn't you admit what you were doing in the first place?
That's well said. Don't you feel good that Elon's running this business now? I mean, like, the things that you're concerned about as a user, as someone who cares about the public's access to knowledge, to opinions, to free speech, this has got to be a good change, right? Like, this has come to light. It's clearly going to get resolved. Everyone's going to move forward. I mean, do you think that there's penalties needed for the people that work there, or like, what's the anger? Because you won. Like
I think we basically got extremely lucky.
Yep.
That Elon Musk happened to care about free speech and decided to do something about it, and actually had the means to do something about it. He's just about the only billionaire who has that level of means, who actually cared enough to take on this battle.
But are you saying that this is a harbinger for other platforms? I think he deserves
praise for that.
And you guys think I think similarly to Elon. Sachs is in my fucking head. Allow me to quote this tweet thread, going back to the analogy of the raging inferno and Elon Musk being one of the few who's actually not only able to see the raging inferno, but has the means and the will to attempt to extinguish the fire. So, Elon Musk is out here trying to extinguish a raging, civilizational level fire, knowing full well he will suffer third-degree burns while doing so. Just like to jump in here and point out there are literally no other billionaires who have the financial means to actually fight this fire, who also have the testicles to do so. As he does, many people are asking, what the f*** is he doing? There's no fire. I can't even smell smoke. Why is he doing this? I'm confused. Musk is one of the few people with open eyes who is both able and willing to suffer serious burns in an attempt to extinguish this raging inferno. As he does this, the naive masses look on, seeing no smoke or flames, thinking he's absolutely insane, clueless to his motivations. The very fact so many people don't see the fire he's trying to point out is the very reason he needs to take action. If you are ever unsure as to why Elon Musk is doing something that seems to have no upside, you can be certain the reason is because there is an imminent threat or danger of such magnitude he cannot help but take action. The shit that's been going on in the world over the last few years has been keeping me up at night. You guys have no f***ing idea. The magnitude of the sigh of relief I breathed when this deal closed cannot be overstated. I can see the fire, many of you cannot. Although I'm surprised you're still watching this video if you're thinking, what fire, dude? I'm impressed. Stick around. It's an important one. Sachs has really hit the nail on the head here. Of all the people, and there's not that many, who actually have the means to do something about this, the subset of people who actually care about this and can actually see the fire and are willing to suffer third-degree burns attempting to fight it appears to be one, Elon Musk. No Elon, no firefighter. Doesn't end well for civilization.
I mean, unless Elon can buy every single tech company, which he clearly can't, I think you guys are right. This is happening in a lot of other tech companies.
We're about to rewrite. The government, the United States government, is going to make an attempt to rewrite Section 230. I think that what this does is put a very fine point on a comment that Elon actually tweeted out. And Nick, if you could find that, please, that's a very good tweet, where he said, going forward, you will be able to see if you were shadow banned. You were able to see if you were deboosted. Why? And be able to appeal. And I think that that concept, to be very honest with you, should be enshrined in law. And I think that should be part of the Section 230 rewrite. And all of these media companies and all of these social media companies should be subject to it. And the reason is because it ties a lot of these concepts together and says, look, you can build a service, you're a private company, make as much money as you want, but we're going to have some connective tissue back to the fundamental underpinnings of the Constitution, which is the framework under which we all live, and we're going to transparently allow you to understand it. And I think that's really reasonable. Make that a legal expectation of all these organizations.
Totally. And I think that is a damn good idea. In essence, if you're a big tech company and you want to f*** people without their consent, go for it. But you'll need to explain to the world that you, A, did f*** them without consent, B, where you f***ed them, and C, why you f***ed them without consent.
By the way, the companies will love it because I think it's super hard for you to be in these companies, and they probably are like, take this responsibility off my plate.
It's just very simple. This is there's really four problems that occurred here. Number one, there was no transparency. The people who were shadow banned, taken out of search, etc., they did not know. If they were told and it was clear to users, we could have a discussion about was that a fair judgment or not. In the cases we've seen so far from Bari Weiss's reporting in the Twitter Files Part 2, it's very clear that these were not justifiable. Number 2, these were not evenly enforced. It's very clear that one side, because we don't have one example of a person on the left being censored. If we do, then we could put balls and strikes together and we could say how many people on one side versus how many people on the other. It's pretty clear what happened here because these all occurred with a group of people working at Twitter, which is 96 or 97% left-leaning. The statistics are clear. Number 3, the shadow banning and the search banning, and I think this is something we talked about previously, Chamath, it feels very underhanded. This was your point. If we're going to block people, they should be blocked and they should know why. The 4th piece of this, which is absolutely infuriating, and this is a discussion that myself, Sachs, and Elon have had many times about this moderation. And I'm not speaking out of school now because he's now very public with his position. And his position he came to on his own. It's not like this is Sachs and I, coming up with these positions. This is why Elon bought the business. If you really want to intellectually test your thinking on this, and I am a moderate who's left-leaning, I can tell you there's a simple way for anybody who is debating the validity of the concerns here. Imagine Rachel Maddow or Ezra Klein or whoever your favorite left-leaning pundit is, was shadow banned by a group of right-wing moderators who were acting covertly and without any transparency. How would you feel if Maddow reporting on, all the Russian coordination with Trump's campaign did this, or Ezra Klein with whatever topics he covers? And you will very quickly find yourself infuriated. And you should then intellectually, as we say on this program, steel manning, if you argue the other side, it's infuriating for either side to experience this. And that is what the 230 change needs to be, Chamath. You're exactly correct. If you make an action, it should be listed on the person's profile page and on the tweet. And if you click on the question mark, you should see when the action was taken, by who, which department, maybe not the person, so they get personally attacked. And then what the resolution to it is. This has been banned because it's targeted harassment. This can be resolved in this way. Then everybody's behavior would steer towards whatever the stated purpose of that social network is. You can get better behavior by making the rules clear. By making the rules unclear and making it unfair, you create this insane situation.
Very well said, Jason.
Go ahead, Chamath. And that's why I'm infuriated about it.
I think you have to take it one step further to really do justice to why this should be important to everybody. And I do think this school example, it really matters to me. I don't know now. We know what the counterfactual is, which is that we've relegated our children to a bunch of years of really complicated relearning and learning that they never had to go through because of all the learning loss they gave them. But what if Jay Bhattacharya, you can't be, have a higher sort of role in society in terms of, population.
Pretty good credentials.
Imagine if there was a platform where he could have actually said this and that, people would have clamored and said, you know what, you and Fauci need to get to the bottom of this. Or where legislators could have seen it and said, you know what, before we make a decision like this, maybe, hey, Fauci, go talk to Jay because he's a Stanford prof. He's probably not an idiot. Why does he think that? Or maybe let's convene, an actual group of 20 or 30 scientists. And the fact that this one version of thinking about things was deemed so heterodoxical, it is just such a good example.
They shut down an important conversation.
You know that the decision was so wrong and the damage was so severe.
Yes.
So we know what happened by suppressing that speech.
And that's one example.
And that is the entire fucking point. It's not about this one event, horrific as it is. It's about the very act of robbing the public, robbing policymakers, robbing everyone of even hearing these ideas, let alone having the discussion and the debate. It's unconscionable, and it isn't one limited instance. This isn't the only time something like this has happened. It's been happening behind the scenes without any transparency for years.
Well, it's in my estimation, it is the silver bullet example that cleans through all of this other stuff. Because, I don't really care if Rachel Maddow, Ezra Klein, who the hell cares? This is important stuff because it affects everybody, irrespective of your political persuasion and what editorial you want to read.
Chamath, what if the investigation into the Catholic Church and the abuses that occurred there, somebody said, this person, it needs to be shut down. And then children are molested for another decade. By the way, we have an example of that. Sinead O'Connor came out on SNL, you can look it up for if you're under 40 years old, and said, fight the real enemy. She ripped up a picture of the Pope because of the scandals there. she was excommunicated. She was canceled at that time. One of the first people to be canceled because she spoke truth to power. What if somebody, an investigative journalist at the New York Times, the Boston Globes are in the movie Spotlight, those are the people who broke the story of the Catholic Church. If somebody came in and the Catholic Church put pressure on a social network and said, hey, you can't put this stuff up here.
What a brilliant point from Jason. Great example, great analogy. By the way, special shout out to the Catholic Church, my favourite charitable organisation, largest landholder on planet Earth, and unquestionably the organisation who's done more to protect and harbour an army of child rapists than any other. Just imagine, like Jason points out, if the bombshell of all bombshells, all the children who'd been abused by the Catholic Church, imagine if this story had been censored and suppressed, never saw the light of day. Imagine the horrors that would continue and go completely unnoticed. Once again, this is why it is so important to allow discussion. Even if people are wrong, even if they're insane, even if they make absurd claims about reality, let them speak. Then explain why they're wrong. This is how we learn and grow. Discussion, debate, engagement. Not suppression, not censorship.
You can't have this discussion of abuse.
Here's another example.
It's infuriating. Why are we shutting down discussions in America?
Remember the Vietnam papers?
Well, because Jake, how the media does not value transparency anymore. If you go back and look at the way that the media portrays itself, like in the movie The Post, which is about the revelations about the Catholic Church, or you go back to All the President's Men, what the media prized and what they congratulated themselves on was, first of all, transparency and exposing the lies of powerful people. Well, that is exactly what has happened here. The lies of the powerful group of people who were running Twitter policy and suppressing one side of the debate has been exposed, and the media is treating it with a yawn, like there's nothing to see here. Why? Because they were complicit in this. They were complicit in suppressing the views of people like Jay Bhattacharya. They were complicit in choosing the views of Fauci and the elite on COVID. And so they have no interest now in bringing in making what's happened here at Twitter fully transparent.
They have to own it. I think, by the way, just a quick correction there. I think, Sachs, when you said the Post, Washington Post, Watergate,
Spotlight, exactly.
Oh, I might have been thinking about Spotlight. Sorry, may have been Spotlight.
Yeah, that's what
Spotlight.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. But the Post is another example. That movie was about another event like this, which could have been easily suppressed in today's world. Much
Pentagon
harder
Papers.
there, which was the Pentagon Papers.
Yeah.
And in that world, there was an immense amount of pressure that the government put on the Washington Post, but then they said, you know what, we're going with it, and they still published it. And it created a groundswell of support to really re-examine the Vietnam War, and it had a huge impact. But could you imagine this time around, which is like, hey guys, there's going to be some kind of misinformation. These Pentagon Papers are not real. It's coming from the Russians. Suppress it. And nobody could. It's so much easier now to run this play.
Well, what journalists need to realize is that today's conspiracy theories are tomorrow's Pulitzer Prizes.
Wow, what a line.
On to you, Sachs.
Not in the current media environment. They work for these corporations, and they don't get rewarded for telling the truth.
Oh, no, they're going for Pulitzers. Trust me, they are.
But
and what they need to do is stop thinking short term and think long term. Anytime there's a conspiracy theory, you must give it some validity and say, is there any truth here? Because it could, in fact, be a scandal that's being covered up. And if you take the approach of shutting down everyone...
They're involved in the cover-up right now.
This is a cover-up. I agree. I'm in agreement with you.
Let's bring the first batch of Twitter files into the conversation, the one that Matt Taibbi exposed. What he did was confirm that a completely true story by the New York Post about Hunter Biden that came out a month before the election was suppressed by Twitter executives, including at the behest of FBI agents and former security state officials. So this has now been exposed. There was no legitimate basis for suppressing that story. It was true. It was a respected publication. They did it anyway. This is election interference. The same people who pride themselves on strengthening democracy are engaged in this wide-scale censorship of one side of the political debate, including of true stories before an election. And then they puff out their chest and say, we're protecting democracy. They're not protecting democracy. They're interfering with democracy. They're interfering with the public's right to know. And then we look at a country like China and we say, well, we're so much better than them because they've got this problem over there where the state and big tech are colluding to create a Big Brother-like system. Well, what is this? What are these tools that have been exposed?
1%
this is a Big Brother-like system.
Okay, yeah, but just you have to, I know you want to make it like an equivalency. It's less than a 1% equivalency because in our society, we can have moments like this and we can have investigations. So just to put it in perspective.
Yeah, Jake, I don't think we're equivalent, but what I'm saying is that this is very much like a Big Brother social credit system
that was being
perpetrated.
Alarm bells should be going off.
You hear that? I'm pretty sure Jason just said the smoke alarm should be going off. There's a raging inferno.
This should be an alarm
And
bell
if
going
Elon
off.
didn't decide, we had this one idiosyncratic billionaire who believes in free speech. If he didn't decide to take this on, we would never have known this stuff.
1 trillion% correct.
Okay, tell me what happened in between these two things. There is an attorney, Twitter, and I don't know the details of this.
Right. Okay. So this is interesting.
I do not work for the Twitter Corporation. I do not speak for the Twitter Corporation. Sachs does not work for the Twitter Corporation and does not speak for it. But there was, in between these two drops, something that happened.
Yes. So basically, what was discovered, and this is all just publicly reported, is that a former FBI lawyer named Jim Baker had now become deputy general counsel at Twitter. And this guy, Jim Baker, is like the Zelig of the whole Russian collusion hoax. He was involved in the FISA warrants that the FBI applied to the FISA courts that had all the errors and omissions. He was involved in the Alpha Bank hoax. He was the guy that Perkins Coie lawyer Sussman was feeding this phony scam to. And I don't think he was officially sanctioned, but basically he was asked to leave the FBI. And then lo and behold, where does he land? At Twitter. And he is involved in their content moderation policies. I think what it shows is how deeply intertwined our big tech companies have become with the security state. Now, how did this get exposed? Well, Barry Weiss was basically putting forward document requests for the latest batch of Twitter files, and she wasn't getting anything back. And she's like, what's going on here? And the guy who's giving her the files his name is Jim. And she's like, well, wait, Jim who? And she finds out, Jim Baker? That Jim Baker? That New York Post had a long story about this guy. So it was discovered that the guy who was curating the Twitter files.
There's nothing to see here. There's no smoke. There's no fire. Don't worry. Everything's fine. No need to panic. No need to work your way to an exit. Everything's totally fine. Nothing to see here next.
Was this former operative of the FBI who was involved in the Russian collusion hoax and then was involved in their blacklist decisions. So in any event, once this came out, Twitter fired him. And then, Barry apparently received all of these files that are now the second batch of the Twitter files.
And just to be clear, that's not James Baker if you're thinking it's the former Reagan cabinet member. Not James Baker. This is Jim Baker, who's a different person.
Right. But a lot of people are wondering, well, how could this have been missed? Listen,
he's an ex-FBI
These
agent,
guys
correct?
don't want to be found. I mean, this is, some people call it, the permanent Washington establishment. Some people call it the deep state. The administrations come and go. The people who work in Washington stay there forever. And they can simply effectuate policy by outlasting everybody else and clandestinely implementing what they believe. And they've become a constituency of their own that exercises power like a Praetorian Guard in Washington. So in any event, this guy is an expert at boll-weevling himself into the bureauccy.
Great. Praetorian Guard, boll-weevil. You're on fire
so,
right
hold
now.
on a second.
So
Wait,
hold
say
on.
the two
So
words
when
again.
they finally,
What
hold on
guard?
a second. When they finally rooted this mole out of the FBI, he boll-weevils himself into another powerful bureaucracy.
What is that word?
Twitter.
Boll-weevil?
Boll-weevil. He like
Boll-weevil?
burrows. Like burrows. Like burrows. Like that. So he digs his way into the Twitter bureaucracy to the point where he isn't even found. And then somehow he has put himself in the position to be intermediating the Twitter files. Can you believe this? So once it was discovered,
a unit of the Imperial Roman Army that served as personal bodyguards and intelligence agents, the Praetorian Guard. Okay, got it.
Well, you understand what happened is that the Praetorian Guard originated because they were to defend the life of the emperor, and then what happened? Then they became so powerful that whoever bribed the Praetorians would become emperor, and then finally the last step is that the Praetorians themselves would pick the emperor. And whoever basically led the Praetorian Guard would be the next emperor. In any event, I mean, we're not at that point yet. But the point is, the point is that these security state officials have power that they should not have. Okay, that's the bottom line. They should not be involved in our elections in this way. They should be completely nonpartisan and non-political. They should just do their jobs as law enforcement officials. But we know from the Hunter Biden story that a very important piece of this was the pre-bunking, that the FBI went to Facebook and Twitter and social networks and said, be on the lookout for a story about Hunter Biden. It is Russian disinformation. And they primed these social networks to suppress that story when it came out. That was something they never should have done.
No shit, Sherlock.
And they knew the story was not fake. They knew it was not Russian disinformation because they had the laptop in their possession since 2019.
Okay, that has not, the provenance of the laptop is still being reviewed in fairness. And there's still hold on.
You're wrong.
And there is an investigation going on of Hunter Biden. You also have to put the context in here, and please let me finish. There is a context here of there was massive election interference going on, both sides of the aisle, Republicans, Democrats, all wanted to see the Russian interference and the Ukrainian interference and Trump's encouraging the Ukraine and the Russians to interfere in elections. Everybody was on high alert, and that happened to drop. Like it was announced 30 days before, and it dropped 10 days before the election. So everybody was on high alert, and I agree it was not done properly. Hold on,
that's why it was the perfect excuse.
It should have been done. It should have been done properly. They should have come out publicly and say, we don't know the provenance of this. It could be hacked. It might not be hacked.
Jason, they knew.
Let's wait and see. We have to reserve judgment.
No, listen, let me tell you what happened. Let me just tell you what happened, okay? So they used
and make sure you source this.
I will. So look, it's all in the New York Post, okay? They've done
great.
Nobody has refuted it. Nobody has refuted it.
It's a super partisan paper. Go ahead.
No, let me just get this on the record here. So
from the Post.
The FBI was given the laptop in 2019 by the laptop store owner. Those guys have forensics. They have cyber experts. They knew the laptop was real. We know it's real now. Nobody questions that. In fact, the FBI has admitted that the laptop was real and that the Hunter Biden files are real. Nobody disputes that, okay? But what they did before the election is they used this excuse of Russian disinformation to discredit the story before it even came out. But they had no business getting involved in the story that way. They simply didn't. They should have stayed out of it completely. I don't understand how you can possibly justify that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do have to look at the context of that time period when Hillary's emails were hacked and we had a president.
That's why it's a perfect excuse.
Well, I didn't finish the sentence. And we had a president, which you will agree, our presidents and presidential candidates should not be encouraging foreign powers to hack their adversaries. You agree with that? Do you agree with that? Answer my question. Do you agree that presidential presidents... Answer the question. Why do you have to divert?
I know what you're doing.
You're going to personally attack me.
No, I'm not.
Don't personally attack me. Just answer the question. Should
this
presidential
is your election
candidates...
denial for 2016. You're still wrapped up on this. You can't let it go.
Again, you personally attack me. You don't answer the question. That's fine. We'll move on. You can't be intellectually honest. That's fine. The audience knows you're not being intellectually honest.
You don't even know what you're talking about.
If you could answer the simple question, should presidents encourage foreign powers to hack their adversaries, then you would be being intellectually dishonest. I am absolutely disappointed that you will not answer that simple question. It's an obvious yes. It's an obvious yes. We don't want people doing this.
Of course, but I don't really believe that happened. I don't really believe that happened. You won't say it because you know Trump's going to win the primary. Let's keep going. China honestly, I don't know. Wait. Listen, I've said so many times on this show that he's not my candidate. I don't know what you're talking about. You're going all the way back.
He'll wind up being your candidate when he wins.
What you're doing right now is like delusional. You're going back to some throwaway comment he made at a rally in 2016. It's got nothing, absolutely nothing to do with this story. And the fact you're even bringing it up is like pure TDS. And I don't want to waste any time talking about it. Name calling instead of answering a question. That's your technique. Your technique is to call me names instead of answering the question. I want to unmuddy the waters. I want to make one more point about this Hunter Biden Another technique that I'm muddying the waters. I'm not muddying the waters. You are. I don't know answering the question. Let's move on.
Tell you what, their makeup sex is going to be off the charts.
No,
let's move on.
I want to make one final point.
Okay, I'll make a final point.
There was a letter. Listen, there was a letter with this Hunter Biden thing. Mm-hmm. This is 2020 election, Jason. We're not going back 2 elections ago. I want to talk about the most recent one.
Okay, fine.
You had Clapper, you had Comey, you had 50 of these security state officials. They write a letter saying that the Hunter Biden story has all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. They claimed that it was Russian disinformation when it wasn't. They knew it wasn't. And it was the same story that the FBI was telling Twitter. And it was the same story that these Twitter executives were indulging in, even though they all knew or had reason to know it wasn't true. And they suppressed the New York Post story anyway. I don't know why you're bringing up this Trump stuff. It has nothing to do with the real issue here. Hold on a second. The real issue is this. Does social media have the right to suppress true stories put out by our media before the month before an election? Yes or no?
I'll answer.
How do you defend that?
I will answer your question yes or no, and you will not answer mine because you're being intellectually dishonest. Yes, we should not suppress news stories. If it was, and I will argue both sides, if it was Snowden, if it was the Pentagon Papers, if it's Hunter Biden's laptop taking out the sex stuff, which we both agree on, or if it is Russia and Ukraine, where your presidential candidate at the time, Trump, asked Zelensky to find dirt on Biden before the election, and he asked the Russians to hack Hillary's email, and they did that, and they released it 10 days before the election. That is facts that happened, and that is the context.
That's not what this was.
You said you would let me speak. You said you would let me speak, and you will let me speak.
You're muddying the waters.
No, stop interrupting me and stop insulting me. I will say my part, you said yours, and then we will move on. The fact is, Trump encouraged hacking of other candidates, and he did it twice in a 4-year period, back-to-back elections. We need to be on high alert when you have a Republican candidate, Trump, doing something so absolutely treasonous.
This is why it's a perfect cover story. This is why it was a perfect cover story, is because
but you won't address the treasonous behavior. Let's move on.
I don't think it was a perfect phone call. I think it was, there were lots of shenanigans. There were lots of shenanigans. Okay. I'm not defending, hold on. I'm not defending anything Trump did. Okay. I don't feel the need. Okay. I never defended it. But the deal is that you're letting your TDS
I don't
justify,
have TDS. He's
come on,
treasonous.
You're allowing this Russian disinformation to be a cover story.
No,
for
I
what
said I don't think posts should have been blocked. You're misconstruing.
Then why are you even bringing this up? It was not Russian disinformation. The context under
which the reason I'm bringing it, I agree that the post should have been blocked.
The context made it a great cover story.
That's your interpretation. The context also is everybody was on high alert, waiting for a hack to drop, and in fact, a hack dropped 10 days before. You have
that was not a hack.
Okay, we found out subsequently it was a hack. That's why there needed to be time.
Point. They knew at the point.
Twitter and Facebook did not know. Twitter and Facebook didn't know. That's the point. They don't know. They're not in the FBI.
No. Taibbi, you go back to the Twitter files, the first drop. Jim Baker, hold on a second. Jim Baker and Vijaya Gotti said, okay, that there were a lot of internal questions about whether that Hunter Biden story could be justified under the hacked policy. Okay. And there were many legitimate questions raised internally about whether they could maintain that party line. And the emerging view is that they could no longer maintain that line. And still, Gotti and Jim Baker said, no, we will maintain the idea that this was hacked information until proven otherwise. Even though it was not hacked, it was a New York Post story.
Okay, let's move on. We're going to agree to disagree. Let's move on.
Why are you bringing up all this irrelevant stuff?
The audience and the other besties want us to move on.
Told you things get heated, and I think Sachs has a point there. It's common. Every time any criticism occurs, especially about the political left in the United States, the immediate response, rather than actually discussing the valid criticism, is, here's another example of something else that isn't the criticism that you're discussing, that I just want to bring up as well, rather than actually addressing the criticism. Happens all the fucking time. People have been ripping on me the last 2 years. Every time I criticize anything the Biden administration has done, like their insane Green New Deal, trillions of unnecessary dollars of spending to spur EV demand when the transition is already inevitable, actively gaslighting the American public, snubbing, lying, and stealing Tesla's valor in collusion with General Motors, claiming that they're leading the way in terms of electric vehicles. Every time I criticize here, the response from people whose brains are offline isn't, hey, that's a fair point. Why are they not inviting Tesla to this EV summit? Why is the president telling the world that GM led the way and it matters? Why is it that the government is planning to spend trillions of dollars and still hasn't actually done the math on how much they'll need to spend on these EV incentives? And plus, why are they spending the money anyway when EV adoption is growing exponentially? It's a done deal by now. Instead of addressing those criticisms, the response, much like Jason here, who, let's be honest, does actually suffer from TDS, rather than addressing those valid criticisms, start pulling examples in of unrelated matters instead of addressing the valid criticism, or making accusations of intense bias. How come you're not criticizing the Trump administration? Spoiler alert, they're not the ones colluding with GM and gaslighting the American public about who led in terms of electric vehicles. They're not the ones proposing the insane amount of spending. They're also not the current administration. We are seeing a great example of Jason's TDS here. I'm sure in his mind he has a valid point. Oh, well, everyone was on high alert, they're expecting some hacked materials. But he's failing to address the very fact that this story was censored with knowledge that it wasn't hacked information. And media was put on high alert preemptively by the FBI, knowing this was about to drop, who told them there would be Russian disinformation to look out for. Hacked materials. But rather than really addressing this particular issue, Jason just wants to bring up other things. Now, I believe this is the single longest video with commentary that I've ever posted on this YouTube channel. That should give you a bit of an insight into how much this matters to me. I know for a fact this will be one of the least viewed videos in the history of this channel. One, because of the topic, and more importantly because of the length. Some people would prefer a 2-pump chump. Sorry, this one had to last as long as it lasted. Yet I still made it, knowing there's going to be a ton of people who unsubscribe and rage quit the channel. A ton of people that rage quit Patreon as a result of this YouTube video. Although, let's be honest, most people are already rage quitting Patreon from the content I'm dropping over there. You really are missing out. If you thought this was a hot take, just you wait till you see what's on Patreon. Yet I still post the video because it matters that much. I know I'm going to get some burns. I'm willing to take the pain because this is a very important topic. Like I said, some people can't even see the flames, can't even see the smoke. They're like, what are you talking about, bro? You're so fucking crazy, man. Conspiracy theorist. But I do want to say, if you made it this far in the video, congratulations. I really mean that. Whether you disagree or agree with what you've heard in this video, whether you think I'm insane, whether you see a fire or not, the fact that you made it this far and actually listened, you're going places. This is how we learn. This is how we grow. This is how we become better. If you've made it this far through the video, I think that's a pretty clear signal that you've got what it takes. And when I say you've got what it takes, I mean you're willing to engage your brain and listen to ideas, even if you don't agree. This is how we make progress. And of course, if you enjoyed this, if you're still watching, you're definitely going to enjoy the content available exclusively over on Patreon, including a lot of stuff that's way too spicy to even say here on YouTube. If you're not a member, you can join with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment. And I'll see you over there. Love ya.